You're in the Hyundai showroom and you've got a budget of 30 grand to spend on a brand new small car. What will it be? A compact sedan or a subcompact crossover? I've got two 2024 Hyundais for you, the Kona N Line and the Elantra N Line. Both of these cars promise a sportier driving experience than their standard trims, and they pack more standard equipment. So let's dive in to see what makes these two worth it. The Elantra and the Kona are essentially the same car and two very different packages. The Elantra was new for 2021 and now gets a refresh for 2024. And in 2024, the Kona is new for its second generation. And only now can these two be compared in price, performance, and technology. Hyundai wants you to remember N. That is their high-performance trim that's now across gas and electric cars. With the Elantra N Line and the Kona N Line, you can consider them as mild performance upgrades rather than the full-blown Ns. We've reviewed those and they're very exciting. But in the lower price category, is it still good? The Kona N Line is less aggressive than the Elantra N Line. You can still tell, though, that it's an N Line by the larger wheels. These are 19 inches, which are bigger than that on the Elantra, bigger brake rotors, just like on the Elantra, and it's wearing that similar LED, the full body width and everything. Very aggressive grille. That's how you can also tell this is the N Line. Plus, body color cladding. You can't tell on this black paint, but if you order it in any other color, and you can get it in some very bright shades, so it's not just that car that is only the bright and crazy colors, it's also the Kona. But while the Kona tries to look like a sporty hatchback, it truly is an SUV. It towers over that Elantra. It's 8 inches taller, it's over 8 inches off the ground, which is 3 inches more than the Elantra, and it's also, oddly enough, more than a foot shorter. The Elantra also has the longer wheelbase. So the Kona is going to be slightly easier to park and maneuver, but in terms of getting in and driving, well, they're going to be two very different experiences. Getting the Elantra N Line gets you this exotic green paint. It's no charge, it truly does look like a Lamborghini. Very wild, and it also is kind of tasteful because when you combine it with the gloss black trim on the front bumper, which is also unique to the N Line, the silver chin spoiler accents, the beautiful LED that's going all the way across kind of has that lucid air effect on a car that costs under $30,000. It's pretty sharp. 18-inch matte black wheels, really nice, 12-inch brake rotors, that's an inch larger than the regular Elantras. And everywhere you go here, yes, there's a lot of busy angles going on. From the side, it almost looks like it's dented, but that is Hyundai's design language for this car. I really do think that it works well in a louder color, and I like the refresh. The stance is good, the colors are good, and I like that Hyundai's really going exciting with a small car. If you want that, it's right over here. The tails of these two Hyundais is also about aggression, just like the front. Although in the Kona, it's way more pronounced on that tailgate spoiler. It's like this big double wing spoiler that looks like the Kona is about to take off in flight, which, as we know, it won't. It's not actually all that quick. But the Elantra, way more convincing that it is. The rear diffuser down here, way nicer than the one over here. It's covered in that nice gloss black versus the kind of cheaper looking plastic over on the Kona. The exhaust tips, both of them look really good. You notice the double outlets, that's how you know it's the N Line, but it's the Elantra that is stealing the show. Because this is more like a conventional SUV, which is great that it's practical, but that, with all the colors, all the intersecting lines, I really like looking at this car. Both of them have that nice intersecting LED tail lamp effect. That's cool. But the Elantra is just stance better. I would definitely go with this one. The N Line nets you turbo power, a 1.6 liter Ford that's downsized from the standard 2 liter but packs so much more horsepower and torque, slightly over 200 on that Elantra. The transmissions are also quite different. A 7-speed dual clutch on the Elantra, and 8-speed conventional automatic on the Kona. And on top of that, the Elantra packs 4 more transmissions. If you order the hybrid, the full-blown Elantra N, the base Elantra, they're so different. There's a lot more configurations there, but the Kona has optional all-wheel drive, whereas the Elantra does not. When you compare fuel economy, there's one clear winner. It is the Elantra, especially the hybrids that go up to about 60 mpg, almost. It's pretty impressive. And if you don't need that, even the regular cars are pushing 40. On this Kona, even in front-wheel drive form, because it's a higher riding SUV, you're never gonna see that level of mileage. The advantage of either Hyundai is this Turbo 4, a big upgrade versus the naturally aspirated 4. Such a big upgrade that I've never actually driven that engine. It's just not powerful enough, I can tell you that. Just by the specs alone, this is the only choice that I think you should make. And it does cost more on either car, but long term, I think you'll be happier. While they both share the same engine, they don't share the same transmission. On this Elantra N Line, it's a 7-speed dual clutch. On that Kona, it's an 8-speed traditional automatic. Now they're both automatic transmissions, but this transmission in the Elantra is using 2 dry clutches. They're not wet clutches. That's what you'll get in the Elantra N. Watch that review. But I actually drove the manual, not the dual clutch. So what does all that mean? Faster shifts, for sure, when you're accelerating in the mid-range. Some lurching, hesitation at low speeds, like when you're just trying to pull out onto a road. So it's not as smooth as that Kona, but it definitely seems to respond just a hair quicker. But after driving the Kona, I'm not really certain that the benefits of this dual clutch are really fully applied to the Elantra. It is really sporty though. There's only 3 driving modes, but really you can just kick this gear selector into S and it just moves very, very easily. The paddle shifters also lots of fun. So if you're looking for just an entry-level compact car and you want a little extra spice on it, this is great. You're not gonna break the bank. It's still pretty fuel efficient. The whole drive I was coming here, all the way from Connecticut to Massachusetts, roughly 100 miles, 32 mpg. It's loud in here. Both of these cars are. The Elantra, because it's priced lower than the Kona, just it feels like it's slightly less refined on the highway. And by refined, I mean there's definitely just more noise. I feel some more vibrations kicking in. It's not horrible. It's actually a much more comfortable highway car than the previous Elantra was. So they've done a lot of work to making it feel comfortable. The seats are firm, they're supportive. So you can sit here for a while and feel fine. There's still plenty of room in this car for 4 people. The main difference between the Elantra N Line and that Kona N Line is the suspension. Because on the Elantra N Line, this is a car that's just a few steps down from the full Elantra N. So in doing so, Hyundai's left a lot of that equipment already there. It's like a baseline for that car. What that means, stiffer suspension, different engine mounts, different bushing. They're all retuned to be firmer and more responsive. And these tires, they're ultra high performance all seasons. That's the top category you can get with all seasons. So it's the most aggressive type of rubber that still works fine in the snow. Not as well as other tires, say like on the Kona, that would perform better on snow and ice. But without going to a dedicated summer tire, the grip is definitely better. When you add all those features, plus the fact that the center of gravity is way lower, I'm sitting lower, all the response of this car is excellent. It's firmer riding for sure, but it's not punishing, and I just think it's way more enjoyable to drive. For my money, I would go Elantra N Line, and if I was buying the Kona, I wouldn't spend the extra money on the N Line. I don't really think you're getting a sportier experience. In the Elantra, you are. In many ways, the Elantra N Line reminds me of the Civic Si. It's not quite as good, but it's definitely close. And it really hits a lot of the marks for chassis, steering control, ride and handling. Like, it's so good, as opposed to what Elantras were just a few years ago. They've made big improvements. The Elantra truly, it sticks. It really does. It's a front-wheel drive car that just handles better than you'd expect because there's some pretty good all-season tires on them, and the brakes are larger. They're 12 inches in the front. That's bigger than the regular Elantra. The entire feel of this car is worth the money. Kona feels just as punchy as that Elantra. It is the same engine, and I think the extra 6 horsepower is truly that sport exhaust on the Elantra. Hyundai doesn't say it, but most likely that's where it's coming from. But with either of these cars, I think this is the better powertrain to have versus the standard 4-cylinder engine. Being in the Kona, it's apparent I'm sitting up higher. Not that high, but enough where I just feel like I'm just gonna roll a little bit. Like my body's not truly as one with the car. That's a typical SUV stance. It's also more typical SUV steering. It's just off center. It feels a little less precise. I don't know how else to describe it. I feel like I don't really know where the tires are, especially when I'm pointed straight and kind of having to make a little minor corrections all the time, or didn't have to do that at all with the Elantra. But it just feels looser. It does feel quieter in here. The sound of the cars rushing past the glass here, definitely more insulated than the Elantra. I also hear a tad bit less tire noise. Even though this is a big open cabin as compared to the Elantra, at least it's taller, so it appears from behind the wheel like there's more volume, when really there isn't that much more in terms of passenger room. Cargo space, absolutely. Having this big open space should ideally be louder, of all things considered, but this is the quieter car. I like that. Yeah, the steering here, it feels like I'm trying to drive a much bigger car. The Kona has gotten bigger than the last gen Kona, which was the very first Kona. There's plenty of reviews on that car, so check them out. But as I'm driving this against the Elantra, it's just really apparent that from behind the wheel, I'd rather be in the Elantra. I just feel more secure. If I'm loading more cargo and need all-wheel drive, well, I've got this. This is a regular torque converter automatic. So there's no clutches getting in the way of the gear changes, which really is what causes that abrupt change. And sometimes in the Elantra, also some lurching feeling, like you're actually feathering a clutch sometimes. Because truly a dual clutch automatic works like a manual transmission in that way. It has that similar feel. So this is more conventional, and I think it's just a smoother experience. But aside from that, there's really no semblance of sporty driving at all in the Kona. We're getting a lot more head toss. The spring rates are really the same as they are in any other Kona. Hyundai has not specified any changes. On the Elantra, they're all stiffer. On here, they're not. So even though it's not really a terribly handling car, it's just like, well, there's more roll, there's more toss, there's more bobbing and weaving because we're up higher. So the N Line treatment in the Kona is not equal to that of the Elantra. You're paying more money for this car. What you do get, and it's an option, is all-wheel drive. But really, this is a car that operates like most cars of its class in front-wheel drive most of the time. It's a reactive system. It's not like you're in a Subaru where you're always driving all four wheels, or in an Audi, something like that. It doesn't work like that. So the experience truly is not as sporty as you would think. And it's also not as reactive just in inclement weather. It's still a nice feature to have, but I'm not really certain that in this segment, at these prices, that you absolutely need it. But that's a personal thing, truly. You'll have to weigh that decision when you're ready to buy a car and see if you actually need it. And if you do and it's valuable, then the Kona is really gonna be your car. It will be. Now I'll take the Kona on some rougher stretch of pavement here. And it does soak up bumps, so the nice thing of not having a lower riding car and a stiffer suspension is truly on roads like this. You can't really take a Kona off-road, but if you're driving in areas where there's a lot of rough patches, where it may not be as great of a ride, this is also the better car to have. For me, despite the softer ride, the better control on rougher surfaces, and the ability to have all-wheel drive, that does not make the Kona N Line a better car to drive. It doesn't. For its size, I think this car should be driving better. I think the previous gen Kona drove better, but it rode worse. So now this one rides better, but now it handles worse. Hyundai's kind of gone in the opposite direction here. I was hoping they could get it right. Maybe we'll wait for the third generation and see what Hyundai comes up with. But if you want a better ride and handling balance with an emphasis on sport, it's the Elantra. It is. In a straight line, truly, if you're just commuting, this may be the more comfortable car. So I won't rule that out. It's just that if you're gonna go into the dealership or see the ads and think N Line means sporty, no matter which Hyundai I choose, just think again. You're not getting the same experience in the Kona at all as you would be in that Elantra. So just keep that in mind. While the Kona is a great highway car, it really was actually better than I was expecting around that turn. I'll give it that. I will. But it's not as good as the Elantra. I keep saying that because even the brake feel, even though they're the same size brakes, everything in this Kona is just looser. Like it's just trying to have no tension at all. And if that's your vibe, then this is the car. In the Elantra, you sit lower, and you're also more enveloped by the car. This grab handle here, the closed center console, the fact that the whole dash is wrapping around you. You're sitting within the car, not on top of it. The Elantra has the sportier car experience because the screens and the dash panels wrap around the driver. The grab handle, the way the climate controls and all the shortcut buttons are angled toward the driver. And I also like the conventional shifter, but it's not conventional looking. It's leather wrapped with a nice red accent. This car really makes me want to drive. These seats, while the fabric really isn't all that expensive feeling, it kind of feels, well, very cheap. It at least is very supportive. I do like the fact that on the N Line, when you're getting something performance, you do actually feel like it's going to deliver. From the front seat, the Kona is not roomier than the Elantra. It's actually a few tenths of an inch less in legroom and headroom with the sunroof. But what you do notice as an SUV, it's very tall, it's upright, everything is really positioned straight and flat. That's the theme here. In the Kona, there are no curves. Everything is upright, it's square, and it's open. It feels like it'd be roomier, but it's truly not. The cargo space is. And on the N Line, you're getting red accents on the dash. I like how they are also on the seats and steering wheel. And on that steering wheel, there's no H logo. That's supposed to be what this is in Morse code. It's kind of funky inside the Kona, if you like that sort of thing. The Kona uses an open layout. It's kind of like open concept in a house where there's no walls. But in a car, I prefer to have my valuables secured so they're not all over the place, they're not loose, and really everybody can see it inside here. The coolest thing about this console is that these cup holders can pop out, but really if you're opening this, you would expect that to be closed. All you get is this tray and then more open space. In the Elantra, everything is just better laid out. And truly, I don't like this shifter. I really think with all this open space, they could have put it back where it used to be. The legroom in the back of the Elantra is basically the same as the Kona. There's slightly less headroom, but otherwise this is very comfortable. But there's no rear air vents. The Kona has them. Still has 2 USB-C ports, and there's rear side airbags, which the Kona does not have. There's an inch more headroom in the back of the Kona, just slightly more legroom. It feels the same here, but what feels better is the air coming at my face because the air vents are included on the Kona and they're not on the Elantra. You don't get rear side airbags, but you do get better seat upholstery. Even though this is not cloth, and it could be, on this Kona, it's leather or it's pleather. This is kind of suede, but it's not. I don't care what you call it. The quality is better in here. The Kona, obviously, is the cargo king. 25 cubic feet of space behind the rear seats compared to 14 in the Elantra's trunk and 64 when everything is folded. You can still fold down the seats of the Elantra. It's got 2 releases right there. Very easy, but yeah, if you're really gonna put stuff in it, it's that car. The Elantra has a smaller 10.25 inch screen running the older infotainment interface. Still good, but these icons not as easy to see at a glance as what you'll find as those tiles in the Kona. Once you do though, plenty of driver assist comes standard. Just like the Kona, everything here is very easy to use. The menus and the sub-menus, there's plenty of information, text that shows you everything that you need to know. An 8-speaker Bose stereo is now standard on the N Line and the Limited. It's okay, but it's pretty decent for a small car. You can also get a digital key. The cameras are just okay, you know. What are you expecting really at this price? The infotainment is generally good, but I do like the Kona screen and layout better. The Elantra has the same digital instrument panel as the Kona, it's just slightly slimmed down in size. You can also do the same things like that cube. If you like that type of stuff, it is there. I do like all these graphics and the animations, but you cannot get a blind spot camera. So if I'm going right and left, even the top trims of the Elantra do not display those camera feeds on the instrument panel like top trims of the Kona do. The Kona has the larger display, it's 12.3 inches and is running a newer version. So there's different typefaces. It honestly is easier to see, especially when you're in the setup. Everything here, well, it's just easier to read when you're at speed. The sans serif font, I do like that. When you go in here, and everything just reacts just a hair quicker. The graphics are more modernized. You still have digital keys. A lot of the same features as the Elantra, to be honest, it's just the layout looks newer. If you're a Windows person, it's like going to Windows 11 versus 10. If you're Mac, it's like Panther versus Leopard. I don't even know that system, but you know what I mean. There's also shortcut buttons here, seek buttons, volume, so it's actually really easy to use just like the Elantra. I just like this layout better. You can also swipe from the top and you have extra controls there, just like a phone. And it's just, well, it's just a little more modern. So if you want the best technology, the Kona might be your option. And also highway driving assist is also included on the N Line. So if you go in here and see all the driver assistance, well, all of that is here, including auto highway speed change. This is available on the N Line on the Kona, not on the N Line on the Elantra. The Kona's instrument panel is larger, it's clearer. You can still do these type of things, kind of interesting. Animations are slightly different, but really there's no more functionality. And for a newer software system, I would expect more. But on the limited trim, not this N Line, you can get blind spot cameras. So if you flick this left or right, either side of the dash would show you a live feed. I wish it was included as an option on the lower Kona trims. The 2024 Elantra starts at $21,625. There are 7 trims, and the N Line here, with floor mats and destination, $29,825. The 2024 Kona starts more. It's $24,250, and there's only 4 trims. And the one you see here, the N Line with destination, $33,695. Because they're both Hyundais, they come with a 3-year, 36,000-mile maintenance plan and a 5-year, 60,000-mile warranty. The Elantra has the edge. It's sharper looking, sharper handling. It is the better car to drive, and it better fits Hyundai's mission for the N Line trim. The Kona is just more comfortable. There's more cargo space, more clearance, and all-wheel drive. So if those things are more important to you, get the Kona. But for me, and for the value and for what the N Line truly is, it's definitely the Elantra. For more info, go to CarGurus.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and keep coming back. We'll see you next time.